Oh, hi, it's me, Phanie. So I'm here finally to talk about my experience with a thymectomy for my myasthenia gravis. I'm just shy of 4 months out, like I had it almost 4 months ago. So I'm totally healed now, but I just haven't gotten around to making a video. We went to Japan and had other things, Christmas and stuff, anywho. So my surgery was on September 13th, but because surgery can be difficult to recover from, they wanted to give me the best opportunity possible. So they booked me in for some IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin, I think. And I guess that's where the antibodies for myasthenia gravis travel through and affect and give you all the symptoms. So they give you intravenous what the fuck is it? Whatever. They give you IVIG to hopefully flush out those antibodies so that your symptoms aren't as bad. So they wanted me to have IVIG before the surgery so that, you know, my recovery wouldn't be so bad. I wouldn't be so symptomatic. So that was my first experience with IVIG. I haven't had any since. I might be interested in trying it again. But you hang around, it's sort of like dialysis, I guess. So I sat around these chairs for 3 or so hours for 3 days in a row, and it was very boring. In the first 2 days, I didn't really have any side effects. They said you can feel feverish afterward. And I had a little bit of a headache afterwards for the first 2 days, but I went about my life, no problem. But the third day, I felt pretty miserable. I had like this migraine that was brutal. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. I'm sure there's other things that you can do to avoid these symptoms, but I took some Advil beforehand and tried to take some vitamins and stuff, but so that wasn't great because I still sort of had my migraine going into the surgery because I had IVIG the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The whole weekend was a write-off. And then the Tuesday was my surgery. So for the surgery itself, I don't want to like shame the hospital I went to, but I didn't really have a good experience with the staff. Like my surgical team was great, but the nurses were kind of grouchy and it really didn't help my experience, which was too bad, but you know, everything worked out fine in the end. So I arrived for pre-op to get ready for the surgery at about like 6 a.m. But the surgery itself was at, I think, 9. They got me checked in and then they got me to put all my belongings and stuff like that into like a bag and I got gowned up. Kind of waited around a lot for the whole 3 hours. And then eventually I had to part ways with my husband about an hour before the surgery. And the surgery, I think itself took just under 2 hours. And we live quite close by to the hospital, so I told him, please don't stay. I would feel sad if he was just hanging around waiting. So he went home and they said that they were gonna call him when I was out. So after that, they got me into like the actual pre-op room, like ready to go area. And they needed to give me an IV, which they had some serious problems with. I think they stuck me not 10 times, but like 7 or 8. I think 8 was the final, like, we got it sort of thing, because they needed to have like a larger tube for the actual surgery instead of just like the smaller ones where they give you, where like they might take your blood or something like that. And the nurse that was sticking me, that was my first experience with nurses being grouchy. She was annoyed that she couldn't get, you know, my vein to work. But that's fine. Like, I'm usually pretty easygoing. I'm like, no big deal, whatever. I guess she had other things to do and was just like shouting at the other nurses, like, can somebody else deal with this girl? Her veins are just not cooperating, and was very grouchy. So 3 other people tried to give me an IV. I don't even like to say they gave me 2 or 3 attempts each time. I had like hole, like everywhere because I couldn't do the same area twice. And then I had apparently 1 good vein on the edge here, but they didn't want to put it there because the way I was going to be positioned, like on my side in the surgery, my arm would be bent, and they're like, we don't want that. So finally, after they just kind of gave up and they just wheeled me into surgery and put me under, and then put the actual, the surgeon himself was just like, oh yeah, fine, we'll put it here and then we'll change it later. So I've been under anesthesia a couple times before. I had my wisdom teeth taken out and was under like a soft anesthesia. I had a different surgery earlier this year, and I had my appendix out like 15 or 10 years ago or so. So I'm familiar with anesthesia. It's kind of scary to be like, you're conscious and now you're not, and then you wake up somewhere else all confused. Though with myasthenia gravis, they don't want to worsen the symptoms, so they will give you anesthesia, but they normally during surgery will give you muscle relaxants, and for this one they gave me no muscle relaxants just because they didn't want it to affect my symptoms, like for recovery, or just, you know, to make me have trouble getting off the vent. So obviously I don't remember anything of the surgery. It seemed fine. My surgeon came over like right before and was like, "You ready? You're good." Even though I didn't have the IV in. And I thought it was funny, the surgeon like signs you. He's like, puts his initials on me, and then away we went. And then, yeah, obviously I don't remember anything about the surgery. The team was really nice. It was crazy that there was so many people in the actual surgical room. Like felt like 10 plus people, like all having their own different job and stuff. Like I was like, oh, I'm so important, jeez. And then they wheeled me up to recovery, where I probably hung out for an hour. They gave me fentanyl, which I can understand why there was like a rash of fentanyl deaths, because it was lovely. There was like this room of post-op recovery people, and everybody's just high as a flippin' kite, and each person in each bed had like a nurse that had to be on them at all times, and I guess they wanted to see if you were still sort of conscious or cognizant, so they had to talk to you. And I just remember this one lady was talking to me about just like random stuff, and I just felt great. I was just in the best mood ever. I felt like stiff and I couldn't really move, but I, you know, felt great. And she's talking to me about like cheesy reality TV shows. And I remember kind of starting to get annoyed with that. I'm like, get out of here. I don't care about Dancing with the Stars. No, I don't know what you're talking about. And eventually she switched over, and then some other guy came over and we were talking about Game of Thrones for forever. And I also asked them, like, have you called my husband to say, you know, to come back to the hospital so we can hang out? They're like, oh no, we don't do that. The other people do that. I'm like, okay, fine. And then after I hung out there for about an hour or so, they wheeled me up to my room, and I waited there a little bit more. And then again, I was like, hey, did anybody call my husband? They're like, no. And everybody was just like pointing the blame and saying like, in the end, like he could have waited, but it made me, I wouldn't have wanted to, I don't want to make people wait and like feel worried about me. So I was glad that I was by myself, but I was annoyed that I saw them write like a note on my chart, like in a post-it note, like call husband, here's phone number, and then they never did. So I guess in his mind, the surgery for me took like 5 hours rather than, you know, 2, because I was wheeled around from place to place. So I was in the hospital for a total of 3 days. I hung out in that particular room the whole time. And once the fentanyl wore off, things were not good for me. They were giving me hypomorph, I guess, for my pain. So basically for my surgery, I guess I'll show you the clip of the scar so you can sort of get an idea. But so I have this one, you can see it's pretty small. It's very not very noticeable. It's probably about like a centimeter long. And then the main one is just here. That one's probably about 1.5 inches and much wider. Unfortunately, it sits like right on my bra line strap. So I try not to wear bras where possible. I wear these like bralettes. And then there's also one just underneath my right boob here. So there's 3 total like that for the thymectomy. They're not that bad. They went in here laparoscopic, or they opened me up here, put the tube in and collapsed my lung and went up through my lung like that. So my chest, when the pain medication wasn't working, it felt like there was like a house on me. Like my incisions didn't really hurt, but my lungs and chest were just like destroyed. It felt like this big heavy weight. And so for some reason, I don't know how pain medication works, but the hypomorph did not work for me at all. And they kept on saying like, I'm in a lot of pain, this isn't working. And they're like, just keep pressing your button. And I just remember like laying there, like what felt like hours, but was probably only, you know, like 20 minutes of time, just like pressing it, waiting. It never got any better until I couldn't breathe anymore because I was in so much pain. And also they didn't give me my Mestinon, which was the worst part. So I was in a lot of pain, my chest felt really heavy, and then I obviously went through some stress from the surgery, but they didn't give me the medication that I needed for my myasthenia gravis. And I kept on like barely croaking out like, where's my Mestinon? Like, I have some in my bag if you want to give that to me, but it wasn't coming across. I guess I wasn't clear, and they were saying no, they needed to prescribe it to me. So I went the whole day. Well, I took my Mestinon at like 6 a.m. before the surgery, and I went until like later on in the evening to get more. I think I actually had my first experience with a myasthenic crisis because I could not breathe at all. And I know it could have been just from the surgery as well, but, and my eyes were really droopy. I could not hold my head up. They put me in a wheelchair to send me to a CT just to check how everything was about 4 or 5 hours after the surgery, and I was just like slumped over in the chair. I couldn't move at all, and my battery was dying. So let's go over this in a moment. 1 minute. Fuck, my battery is still dying. Let's see how much I can get this out. I don't have 2 batteries. So that sucked. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to talk about my whole time, because the nurses were just ignoring me, and I'm like, I'm in so much pain, please give me my medication. No, so the first day was garbage can, but then my actual surgeon did rounds and was like, why haven't you given her Mestinon? What? And he like apologized profusely to me. They ended up giving me some T3s, and that helped. They were like, oh, like breakthrough pain or something, and they gave me T3s for that, and that helped. But again, into the next day, the hypomorph didn't help. I don't know, I was just like, get rid of it. And I think they just didn't want to waste it because there was like a big old tube of it or something. Like, I don't know how that works or the human body works, but it's not working at all. So basically I just used T3s to recover from the whole surgery from like the beginning. Well, I had the fentanyl, and then I had T3s for the rest of the time because the hypomorph, or Dilaudid, it used to be called, did not work at all. And then for the next 2 days I just kind of hung out. It wasn't that bad. I slept a lot. The old hubby was there hanging out with me. It wasn't that bad. It was gross when they had to put like a tube in this, they left this tube in for after the surgery, and then they let me heal a little bit, like my lung heal up a little bit, and then they pulled it up. They wanted to drain fluid, I guess. So the sensation of them, like on the 3rd day they took that out, and then I left, but the sensation of them taking this tube out was the grossest. It's just like this fucking tube coming out of me. That was pretty gross. And then when I got home, I just took it super easy. Like anybody else that has the surgery, like don't do anything. Like don't do dishes, don't sweep, don't like, anytime that I would start to feel better, and I would be like, oh, I can, you know, maybe do this, maybe lift this, my purse, or like, for the first 2 weeks, like try seriously to not lift anything, because anytime I get frustrated, I tried after about like a week and a half, I was like, oh, it wasn't sweeping, but I tried to do some small, tiny, easy thing, and it was just like, I was in horrible pain for the next couple days. Like it would put me back. It probably took me about 3 weeks total to be totally able to start to, you know, get up and do things by myself. But the worst part was, because of all the fucking IVs that they gave me, my arm, or maybe not because of, but my arm got infected, which was brutal. Like my veins were infected. So I couldn't move this side at all because I couldn't pull in on anything because the muscle here was opened. So I couldn't use this arm at all. And then I couldn't use this arm at all. So I walked around like a reverse T-Rex, unable to do anything. My arm like this was so tight. It was like slammed like this. And I really didn't feel like going to the doctor. I guess I was too lazy. So it was like just super swollen and was brutal. So it took probably about 2 weeks for that to totally heal. And then I could get, after the 3 week mark after my surgery, I felt like I could start to get back to normal. I could kind of type and mouse a little bit with this hand, and this arm was back to normally-ish. Even still I have this like dark, like my veins here, you probably can't tell because it's so bright outside, but my vein here still was bruised and ugly looking for a long time. I would say it definitely took me a solid month to start-ish to feel normal again, to feel like I could go out and about my day, and then I could, you know, do some cleaning stuff. If I did want to pick up something heavy though, it felt like my insides were gonna burst out of my incision. Like obviously I would just stop if I felt that. I'd be like, ooh, I don't want. So that probably went on until maybe the end of the 2-month mark. I could stop doing that around December. So if I pull on something heavy, I'd be like, ugh. But for the most part, once I actually got home and was relaxing, it wasn't that bad. And made sure I took my medicine on. As for whether or not my symptoms have improved, it's hard to say because my symptoms are usually much worse in the summertime. Well, my camera keeps cutting out, so I should make this short. Feel free to ask me questions down below in case I've missed anything, and I'll definitely answer them all. That's basically it. That's been my experience. The most annoying piece of it long term has been that, yeah, it is like right, this wound is right, or the scar is right where my bra goes. So I just like don't really wear bras lately. I mean, I'm wearing like these bralettes, or like this shirt is like got holes in it for some reason, but that's about it. I'm sure then that'll definitely get better with time. As for symptoms, yeah, it's gonna be hard to tell. I think by next summer I'll be able to tell, because summer I usually have worse symptoms, and winter's usually, my symptoms are usually not that bad. I've still had like jaw pain, and I'm slurry. I'm sort of slurry when I talk in this video. My eyes, like I definitely still have to keep taking my medicine on, so I can't, it takes a while to tell if the surgery has worked. So maybe I'll do like an update video like a year after the surgery to see. Ooh, there's an eagle! Oh, it's a crow. Can't tell I'm in front of a window right now. Yeah, so the first day of my surgery, like at the actual September 13th day, was garbage, but after that it was fine. I actually had some nurses that were students who were some sweethearts. They were like interns, I guess. Were just like super pleasant and super friendly and super understanding that I was like, hey, I need my medication, and they're like, ugh, even though their bosses weren't really listening to them, or I'd say like, this medication isn't working for me, can we switch it? And they would sort of, these two ladies would kind of fight for me on my behalf, and they came out afterwards and were like, oh, you were a really great patient, thanks for being so nice, and all this stuff. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention I had a catheter too. That was weird. And they were like fascinated, like, ooh, can we watch it? Can we watch you like have your catheter removed? I'm like, okay. But it's a learning hospital, so that's fine. So I had 2 tubes in me after my surgery, the one out the side and then a catheter, apparently. Hi! This is what it looks like outside. This is where I film because it's nice and bright. So I guess I'm gonna end this video here. That's basically my experience. Now I'm just gonna have to wait and see how my body reacts, I guess, to the thymectomy. My symptoms are not as bad as they've been, definitely, but they're definitely still there. So I think I just need to give it time to see if it worked, and if it didn't, I tried. Also, oof, I'm a white person, more than usual. I saw my surgeon about 2 or 3 weeks after the surgery, and he got like helped me take he took my stitches out, and gave me the results of my thymus gland, which they had taken out. And it definitely was the first thing that said, you know, this is a thymus gland of somebody with myasthenia gravis. So that was nice to have like the first test ever that said like, yes, you have myasthenia gravis, instead of, you know, antibody tests, everything coming back inconclusive and not really knowing. So it was nice to know that I didn't just have this major surgery for no reason. I would have, even if it came back negative, I'd be like, well, let's see how it helps. Here's a symptom. My arm is holding my camera up. This video's been like a minute and a half, and like my hand is shaking violently. I cannot hold the camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this puppy down. Yeah, I think I will do an update video after a year. So next September, expect a video of see how things are doing. And until then, hope you enjoy your day. Hope this video was helpful to anybody that was curious about thymectomy and myasthenia gravis. And